So, yes, here we are. Matt Kahn, welcome to Livsenergi's interview channel. We're so happy to have you.
Oh, it's an honor to be here, really, truly.
It's exciting for us to be launching another of your book. We launched a year ago, we launched Everything is Here to Help You. And now we're launching The Universe Always Has a Plan. And here is the Swedish cover for this one.
Yeah, that's so cool.
We're launching it now in June, and it's in the middle of the summer, you know, midsummer here in Sweden. And it's this sweet format of the book that you can just read when you're lying in the grass and enjoying the summer heat, which is very important for us Swedes.
Yeah, you know, it was made into almost like to be a travel companion with you, you know, almost as an extension of my teachings, where people watch so many of my YouTube videos and they say, God, if I could only carry you with me. And so we decided to make my third book into like a travel companion that you can take with you. You can read it from cover to cover. It certainly has so much content and insight within it. And you can also just kind of flip like it's an oracle card deck and just what page do I need, what teaching do I need to see, which golden rule applies to me today. And so we can use it in so many ways as a travel companion, because I think in today's day, it's all about bringing consciousness with you, right? And in the beginning, it was going to a sacred place, having an experience, and hoping to take that back with you into your life. In today's day, in today's busy modern day era, it's time to take consciousness with us everywhere we go. So I think the book is a symbol of that. I think the universe is always going through a process of redefining its infinite timeless truths. And every teacher that comes along is just going to be a reinterpretation of a lot of these very timeless truths. And every time it's reinterpreted, it reaches us in a different place. It hits us in a different part of our lives. And it gives us, you know, deeper and different meaning for the truths that are always coming to us. So like a spirit guide, the book is just a way in which the universe worked through me to take some of these really big timeless truths and to simplify it and make it so down to earth and applicable to our everyday lives, to where everything you're learning in the 10 golden rules is helping you to truly live a purpose-filled, spiritually aligned reality, but in a way that doesn't pull you out of your life, but helps you step forward into your life.
Good. Well said. But you're famous for saying all these great things. You are a loved and cherished spiritual teacher for millions of people.
Yeah.
And you've been serving the universe for many years now.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit of the work that you do? More than writing books.
Of course. I've been, serving humanity for about 15 years and channeling teachings for 15 years, both in my books and on stage. It has been my lifelong passion to be one with the universe, just like a child would be enamored by a sports celebrity and want to be like that person on a sports team. When I discovered the universe, and when I was a kid and I was taught about something called God, which for me was not a very religious thing, it was a very universal thing. When I discovered the universe or God, for me that was the passion. That was, you know what? That's what I'm dedicating my life to. And I didn't know at the time, of course, but I spent my entire life being a conscious channel of the universe, which means that I don't put my personality aside and let something enter me. I've actually gone through a lifelong process of integrating my ego to where I am a living embodiment of that which I'm channeling and bringing through. And so I live my life where I have to eat a certain way, and my whole life is like dedicated to this work like it's a sport, and whether it's on stage transmitting healing energy and everyone walks away feeling like I was just talking to them, or I wrote a book that's reaching millions of people, it is truly my deepest honor. And it is so humbling to know how many lives that I continue to touch. But for me, it is just the dedication of being a space for which the universe can move through. And really, to me, it's not just about the lives that I'm helping to touch, but it's also about the joy of looking at the world and seeing how many people are truly resonating with the vibration of love. And I think that's really exciting.
Mm. Do you learn all the time by, I mean, you could also see this as a learning journey for yourself.
Mm. You know, there isn't a day where I don't learn something new, where I don't become a different version of myself. And then it gets to a point where there isn't a moment where you don't learn something new. So in every moment, and I'm not trying to learn, I'm not hyperactively looking for things. It's just you're at a place of awareness where the things that used to slip by you come back around and you go, oh, and you get to a point where every moment is an opportunity to grow. Every moment is an opportunity to learn. And for me, learning is such a joy. Learning is never an experience of rejection or, you know, oh, why didn't I know that? Or it's never a feeling of failure. Learning for me is a gift in which the universe is saying, here's another opportunity to up level to the next highest timeline or vibration. And so I look at it like a gift. And that's why I write about things being gifts. And that's why a lot of my teachings are about making peace with all the aspects of life, because whether it's an uncomfortable feeling, whether it's a limiting belief, or whatever it's going to be, or the way someone treats you in the world, every moment of these experiences can be gifts of growth and expansion if we develop harmonious relationships with them. So for me, in every moment, I'm growing, I'm expanding. When I have time off the road, when I'm not speaking in front of audiences, I'm enjoying myself, I'm being creative, I'm downloading new teachings. But the thing I'm always doing is I'm always growing and I'm always changing and I'm always evolving. And the next time people see me in a video or on stage, I'm literally totally different. And I love that.
Yeah, it is. That's life.
Yeah.
What about, has this always been the case? Or, I mean, I've learned that you had quite a challenging background in early life.
Yeah.
How have you, so if we look at that time, what were the biggest challenges and how have these situations formed your life?
You know, and I say like I've had a challenging background like all of us, because I think all of us would look and say we've had challenging backgrounds, and it's totally true. It's all subjective to our experience. I came in this world very energetically sensitive, very psychically aware, but of course, with like many of us, without the maturity to understand it and handle it and anchor it. So when my family would play out their patterns, when there'd be bursts of anger, for me, it felt like I was on a battlefield and it was very intense. But from my earliest memories, and I didn't know what it was until years later, of course, but what I always had within me was this interest in observation. And I've always been very curious. And so every time I saw something happen, whether it was a disagreement in my family, something unfair happened, I got blamed for something I didn't do, and I took credit for doing it just to get out of being yelled at, you know, things like this. I would always watch. I'd watch other people and I'd watch myself. And I didn't know why I was doing this, but from the earliest age, and I didn't know why I was doing it, but I was like studying life. And so for me, before I even got into this field, I've spent my entire life watching and studying everything. And then at a certain point, you don't know it's a pattern, but you start noticing patterns. Like, oh, that again. How did that happen? Ooh, what did I do? And and you start to almost create like an understanding of how things are working. And so for me, it's always been an exploration of life. And the exploration of life is literally the foundation of what created my ability to be who I am, you know? So my upbringing was a lot of codependent relationships. You know, if someone is unhappy and I'm feeling their unhappiness, I think they're unhappy with me. So I went around trying to make sure everyone was happy, because I thought if everyone was happy, they must like me. So a lot of misunderstandings. And as I say this, I'm sure there's so many people listening that's going, oh my God, that was me too. So for all of us, it's really difficult when you come into this world very awake, very energetically sensitive, and you have to develop the maturity and the awareness to ground and anchor and understand what really all this is. And there's really quite a higher purpose to all of it. But in the beginning, for all of us, it is quite an introduction to life on this planet.
But if I'm a person that's not like you, observing the way you have been doing all your life,
Yeah.
how can I come to see all those patterns, and how can I get out of the codependency and the feeling of being not worth anything,
Right.
and see all this? How can I do that without being the observer through life?
Well, I think that everyone is the observer, but I think the difference is that some people are the observers of experiences and some people are the observers of their ideas about experiences. And a really simple inquiry just being the name of being the name we give to a series of questions. The most simple inquiry anyone who is starting their spiritual path to really start seeing versus reacting or judging is that, let's say we have a reaction or we have an opinion about someone. We stop for a moment and we ask ourselves, why do I believe that? Just a simple question, why? Or I got upset. Why did I get upset? Not that it's wrong to get upset, but why? Because when I was young, it wasn't wrong to be who I was. I was just curious. And so like I would get upset at someone and I would ask myself spontaneously, why did that upset me? And in my mind, I would say it upset me because A, B, C, D. And then I would ask, and why was that upsetting? And I just slowly asked myself the questions why. And what I realized is that I never got down to a core reason. It's that the question unraveled the reaction, or the question of why unraveled the belief and judgment about a person. So what happens is that if we don't question, and again, not judging ourselves, because some people question and it's a self-judgment, like, why did I do that? Mm-hmm. Now, why did I do that? Why am I upset? Why am I really upset? And even when you get into a deeper reason and you get into, oh, it's because my mom and my dad, keep going. And why is that upsetting me? And if you take the inquiry deep enough, and someone who plays the role I play is just helping people to really track those experiences and go as deep as possible, you'll actually have this breaking open point where there is no answer to why. There is only the unraveling of what why was helping you explore. And so a question can be a very intriguing way to foster more curiosity instead of codependency, and more awareness instead of judgment. And it really, I think that's the purpose of the spiritual journey, is when we're ready, we ask deeper questions because we sense there's something below the surface that is bigger than all of this. And that's really always inviting us into those questions. And so the question of why from a very loving place can be a very potent tool.
Yeah. I read somewhere today, actually, just before our interview, that you explain spirituality with being a conscious human.
Yeah.
Recognize that.
Yeah, the spirituality is the ability and the willingness to be a conscious human. So it's not the shift from human to consciousness, as if human is what we leave behind, we ditch. Just like we don't ditch our egos, we don't ditch our minds. Nothing gets ditched. It gets brought with us. What most people are experiencing is not actually because of their ego or their mind. What most people are experiencing is a vast separation between their mind or personality and the vibration of their consciousness. And what happens is that the consciousness is always way higher in vibration than typically where the body or mind is. And so the consciousness has to travel back in time to where the body-mind construct is. That's when we play out our conditioning, we fall asleep, we react, we're in fear, all of these things. But when we go through a phase of evolution, when we start asking questions like why, when we start loving ourselves, we take our body-mind and we start bringing it up to date with where our vibration is. And then those things can all unite as one. And then our body-mind can be a living vessel and expression of our vibration. And so spirituality, being the willingness to be a divine human, is where we allow the human to be the space and the vessel for the light of the universe, and the light of the universe being our full and ultimate capacity shining through the person. This is what it is meant to be a fully integrated spirit and form.
Mm-hmm. So what is an empathic healer?
Well, a healer is someone who helps hold the light of someone's highest potential and either reflects the goodness to them or brings up in them what needs to be healed. And an empathic healer is someone who simply can feel other people's emotions in their own body. So for me growing up, I could feel other people's feelings, but I thought it was their opinion of me. So if I felt a fight they had with their mom, I thought they were angry with me. And so I grew up in a very codependent pattern because I was a very highly attuned empath, but I was a child with no awareness of what this was. And even if you told a child you're an empathic healer, it's not helpful. And I had to learn how to separate my feelings from other people's experiences. And I started to realize after I started to really kind of look at that my feelings would have a very intimate feeling and other people's feelings would have a different kind of frequency. And so as you learn this, you learn that it's almost like other people's feelings are a different color. And you learn to separate things a little bit, right? But in the beginning, it's all kind of entangled. And so an empathic healer is someone who knows where the healing needs to go in someone's body because they themselves can feel what's happening in them. The key for empaths is learning to be so sovereign in our own energy field that we're just not walking around taking on other people's energy. We're able to actually experience our own light. And then in the presence of someone who needs to be healed, our own light gets reflected to them to bring them up into a state of wholeness instead of bringing us down to their level of conditioning. It's a lifelong process.
I can imagine. It doesn't feel very easy at all.
It's not.
Because, I mean, even if you're not an empathic healer, you
Exactly.
take on other people's feelings as well. And just
I would say that everyone is an empathic healer. The difference is the degree to which they know it. So everyone's an empathic healer, and the ability to master it is involved, and it does take time. Absolutely. I mean, that's just the truth. But in the same way, growing from a child into your full, masterful adult self as a human being takes time too. So everything takes time. It's just a matter of what are you willing to give your time to? And for me, and for those that I serve, I bring a new horizon, a new path, a new reality of spiritual evolution for those that say, this is what I dedicate my life and time to. Because everything takes time. Finding the right partner takes time. Building a savings account takes time. Healing your family traumas takes time. Figuring out what the hell you want to do with your life takes time. Everything takes time. The question is, what do you want to dedicate your time to? And there are so many people on this earth who are very passionate about dedicating their time to the evolution of humanity, to expanding their soul and growing spiritually, and who are very energetically sensitive and want to learn how to live in this world without being bombarded. And those are the beautiful people I serve.
And there's a lot of them.
A lot.
Yes, that's great.
Thank you.
What makes you tick? I mean, you must lose it sometimes.
I'm trying to think the last time I lost it. What happened when I lost it? Well, you know what makes me tick is I love life. I love life. So if something happens, and most people, if it would happen, a reaction would happen. Like something doesn't go their way, or there's a I was going to go on a tour and then the world shut down. You know what I mean? Like for me, what comes up is laughter because I have such a love for life that it's almost like I'm playing a game with the universe. And it's almost like I'm following a map. And then at a certain moment, the map disappears and it's a new map. And I go, okay, the game has changed. And for me, it's just this instinct of things don't push me away from life. Things pull me into life. So if things get kind of crazy, I step into it. Not because it's what I teach and I have to embody that. It's just who I am, right? My teachings are an extension of myself. So for me, life only pulls me into life. The things that threaten most people actually either create a sense of curiosity or interest in me or excitement. Because I go, oh, here's something interesting. Here's where change is going to happen. Life's inviting me into something deeper. So I have such a respect for life. I have such a love for life. And I soak up so much of this life in every moment, to where if it was my time to go in any moment, I would leave totally fulfilled. So I have such a love for life that I don't feel like it kind of agitates me like it used to when I was a child or a teenager. I just, I look at life, and when things change or don't go as planned, I go, okay, a different game. Let's play. And so for me, the playfulness allows life to be a lot of fun no matter what happens. And it's not something you can manufacture. It's something that just awakens within you at a certain point of your journey.
Is there an event in life that made you shift from?
Oh,
yeah.
Like many, but I remember one. I mean, I can tell you like 5 or 7 like significant moments that like were like mind blowing. My life will never be the same again. But I remember one particular moment where I was living in my old house a long time ago, and I was looking into a full-length mirror for some reason. And I always am able to see the vibrational particles of subatomic energy, the vibration that makes up form. And I started to look at myself in the mirror, and the more I looked, the more my body became less form and more light. And I kept looking until the reflection in the mirror completely disappeared. And all of a sudden, I was consciousness watching the form, not the form seeing itself. And at that moment, there was a shift. And at that moment, literally as fast as the blink of an eye, it was as if everything of my past just poured out of my ears and just vanished. And at that moment, I thought, oh, what words would capture this experience? And what came to me very many years ago was a very interesting quote that said, I once was a person standing in a space, and now I'm the space where a person stands. And that was a profound shift into not just being aligned with consciousness, but being consciousness experiencing itself as a person. Yeah. That shift changed everything for me. And it changed how I responded, how I reacted, how I saw things. And when you have a shift like that, and if it's deep enough, there's not much that's really going to poke and prod you. And it's not because you're holding this space. It's not because you're trying to do it right. It's just you're in a whole different dimension of reality.
That's what you can feel when talking to you. And, because we have been speaking like this another time a year ago.
Yeah.
And I felt the same then. It's not you trying to uphold some kind of facade.
Right.
It's just pure.
Yeah. And I think the fact that the universe has been my guide my whole life. And I've read books here and there that have just confirmed my experience, which is lovely. I've never really had a formal human teacher, although I would say every human being in my life has been a teacher to mine, but I didn't take a formal path. The universe was my guide, and I found my own way, and I found my own way in a way that is different than most people have been taught. I found my own way in a way that as I worked with people, I started to see a lot of the pitfalls they got stuck in. And so coming from this unique experience where my spiritual path is only based on my experiences, and not based on what I've learned first. Because if you learn it first, your mind starts to look for it. And you start to put things together, which is totally fine, right? Because everyone goes, here's the thing. Now let me look to make sure I'm having this experience because I don't want to be left out. So I didn't have anything to look for. I just was examining what was here already. And so because I came from that direction, it all was very spontaneous. It was all very natural. And I never had the sense of, oh my God, this is going to go away. Someone's going to bump into me at the store and it's going to make my vibration vanish. Never had any of these ideas until I started working with people and learning about their other paths. And the only way I learned about their paths is by working with other people and pieced this whole thing together over 15 years. And then I went, oh, what? And so, that's why what I teach is very unique, because it's all experience based. And the fact there's healing energy that comes through the sound of my voice, it's giving people the experience of what I'm talking about, not just believe what Matt says, but can you notice that you're actually having the experience right now he's talking about?
Can I ask you about your colors of the color of your eyes?
Yes. They're
They
hazel.
look green to me.
Yeah. Greenish. Yeah. Green hazel.
Yeah. They're fantastic because you know what? In the background of your image, there are blue and green books. And they pick up the color of your, I've never seen that kind of green eyes. They're beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't see my eyes often. I'm always looking through them, but thank you. You know, and yeah, my bookshelf, someone coordinated all my cookbooks color wise, which looks really cool, but they're all my cookbooks, all cookbooks.
Oh, and I can see Peru over there.
Yeah. Whole cookbook on just Peruvian food. I'm very much into food. How I learn about cultures is through food. And when I'm not on stage, one of my greatest passions is cooking, which may, you know, whether it's the next book or the next book, there is a cookbook forthcoming and maybe some cooking videos because I'm really into cooking. I cook everything. When I'm at home, I cook everything from scratch. And
that's great.
Yeah.
I love cooking too. And I love good food. It's so nice.
It's one of the main reasons we're here, you know, is to enjoy the pleasures. And for me, whether it's how I plate something or how I cook something, I have cookbooks that teach me technique and different combinations. But when I go to the store, unless I'm just kind of learning, like every week I'll learn a new recipe, but usually I don't buy food based on recipe. I just buy ingredients that resonate with me, and then I go home and I create. And it's such a fun artistic practice. And I think what's a teaching in that is that as much as we are spiritual beings, we have to have a spiritual life. We have to have a creative artistic life. And so for me, when I'm not on stage, when I'm not downloading teachings, I'm listening to music, I'm creating recipes, I'm cooking, I'm studying different cultures by recipes. And for me, it's the art that helps to ground the consciousness. And I think that as we continue to evolve, we're going to see more and more that the higher we go in vibration, the more essential it's going to be to have an artistic creative practice along with having a spiritual life.
Yeah, and that artistic practice can take so many forms, right? It doesn't
Right.
have to be a painter or whatever.
It could be a dancer, it could be a jewelry maker, it could be a singer, it could be just going out in the woods and just making noises, it could be putting words to your emotions and making songs, it could be playing with your children, it could be coloring in a coloring book, it could be, you know, even journaling can be creative, but it's any way in which creativity is using your senses or any medium to take a break from whatever structure you live in. And so I think
we all live in structures, right?
Right. So everyone lives in some sort of structure. Even the person that says I'm beyond all structures, that's a structure. Because then they have this idea of I'm out of the structure and I remember what structure I used to be in. So now we're in a new structure. So, you know, trying to say I'm not in any structure is actually a very limited, sophisticated structure. So anything we can do to take a break from our structures, walk in nature, meditate, tone, chant, be grateful, donate our time to charity, hold the hand of someone who's on their deathbed. Anything we can do to take a break from our structure is always going to give us a bird's eye view and a perspective of life beyond what we believe is happening. And that's really what the invitation of consciousness is all about.
Very true. So I want to bring back our conversation to the path, because 14 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, you choose a different path. You had actually gone into university, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
What did you study to become?
Well, so I entered college after high school, and I was very upset when I learned that in college you had to spend the first 2 years doing something called general electives or general education, meaning it was basically like 2 extra years of high school. I was excited to go to college, take some sophisticated classes. At that time, I was going to major in psychology because it was just the closest thing that matched what I was passionate about. And so I'm in college the first 2 years. I'm doing math, and I thought I was over all that. And I'm learning early American literature, which at that time in my life I hated. You know, it was my greatest meditation teacher, and it destroyed me each and every time. You know, geology. Oh my God. You want a meditation? Learn geology. Oh my goodness. And the only things I liked about college were psychology, communication, class on communication. And that's where I started to really get into communication and relationships and stuff. And it wasn't like I learned anything from it. I mean, it just opened me up to some things. And then I liked, of course, the food court at the college. And those were the three things I liked. And one day I was in early American literature class and we were studying this book called Beowulf, but in like Latin and translating it line by line. And I remember the teacher was talking to the whole group and saying, you know, being here is a choice. You really don't have to be here. And I literally picked up my backpack and slowly walked out. And I literally declared the universe my university. And I went home that day and my parents said, what did you learn at school today? I said, I learned I don't have to be there. I quit. And God bless my parents for giving me the opportunity to find myself. But it was that day where I literally, it wasn't like school broke me, it broke me open. And I just realized my path is not going to be conventional. But the trick was, if I'm not going to do college, whatever I'm going to do, I've got to be true to, just like college, right? It can't be, I don't do college and I don't do anything else. That never worked for me. It was like, if I'm not going to do college, I got to do something else. And what I was able to stay true to, my deepest passion, was the spiritual path. And it brought me to where I am now. And it's an incredible story. And I laugh about it so often. I mean, but yeah, college was a 2-month experiment that did its job, and it was not fun at all.
It's a daring way.
Yeah.
A lot of courage into that.
For me, it was just, I know there's something for me to do, and I know there's something I'm really passionate about, but this isn't it. But what I couldn't settle for is, if this isn't it, I can't do nothing. Yeah. So I then had to start exploring. And at that time in my life, I was really into fitness and bodybuilding. And I became a personal trainer. So I was a personal trainer for many years. Then I got injured on the job and I had a back injury. And then I asked the universe to help me heal my back. And that's when I got activated as a healer. And so my entire life has been preparing me for this. Every step. I didn't see it, but life knew what it was doing, right? And that gets back to the book title, The Universe Always Has a Plan. The universe always has a plan for me. I didn't know it till the last, how many years? Okay, and you get onto it. But like everyone who's listening to this, the universe has a plan for all of us. And that plan has been working itself out since the day we were born. At a certain point, we get onto it. But the faith and the joy and the relief is that even if you don't know what that plan is, the universe does. And you're already playing out that plan, whether you know it or not. You will become conscious of it. And when you start being interested, it will open up. But whether you know it or not, you cannot escape the plan the universe has for you. And it's such a beautiful thing, because the plan for each of us is greater than anything we could ever try to manifest.
I love that thought, and I truly believe it myself. And looking back through events in life, you can see that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for. So
that's right.
By experiencing life and reflecting of life, you learn, and you can perhaps support yourself in believing for the future path.
Yes. And, at a certain point you get onto things and, you sense and you resonate and you start becoming a part of this. Kind of like, if a child came to you and said, what do I have to do to make sure that I become an adult so I don't stay in childhood forever? And you would say, oh, honey, you don't have to do anything. It's happening for you. You're just going to become aware of it at a certain point. So I think the same idea that we would say to a child, we say to ourselves, we say, you will become aware of the spiritual master waking up in you. But there's nothing you need to do to become that, because you're already in the process. It's just a matter of how much of the process needs to be manifested and embodied before you become aware of it. And again, the book, The Universe Always Has a Plan, is not just a travel companion to help us along the way, but it is step by step how you can become aware of the universe's plan for you and start living as a truly aligned expression of source and form, for a gift for yourself, a gift for your family, and a gift for the evolution of mankind.
Just a couple of words about this book, because it's broken up into 10 golden rules. And I think that each and every rule, you are explaining those so well, so you can, I as a reader can actually have a mind shift of my experiences from life, and then start thinking about what you're writing and have a different viewpoint on that, which is really helpful. So I think it's a very, 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 very helpful book in perceptions.
Absolutely. I think, that's really one of the cornerstones of the spiritual path is here are different ways of looking at the same thing. And if you notice how much better it feels in your body to look at it this way, and of course, in what I'm teaching, it's not as if we're trying to look at it differently to escape our feelings. We're looking at it differently so it's safe to feel our feelings.
Yeah.
So it's really an opportunity for us to really be one with ourselves. And what's really important about the book is it helps you learn how to do the inner work without taking it out on yourself, without self-judgment, without blame, without self-criticism. So for all of us who want to do the work but can't stop making it about ourselves and blaming ourselves and feeling bad about ourselves, this book, step by step, is going to be quantum leaps of liberation for everyone who's ready to open their heart, shine their lights, and to really be a fully integrated expression of divinity, to be a divine human, as we said earlier.
It's something that, it's a book that's going to stick with me for quite a while.
I love that.
Can we touch on where we are today in the world? Because we're in the middle of the pandemic, Corona.
Yeah.
As an intuitive healer, what are the biggest issues for people right now, you would say?
Well, I think there's a few issues. I think one is that people are being pulled or invited to unplug from using outside perception as a way of determining their place in the world, right? If you turn on the news, no matter what continent you live on, there are two sides to the story. People say, this is what's really happening. And some people say, this is what's really happening. Other people say, this is what's really happening. And everyone's got a different agenda, a different viewpoint. And what happens for the collective, because this entire pandemic experience has ushered humanity into the very depths of spiritual path that most of us have been on for many years. So this is our spiritual path just magnified across the globe. And what we're being ushered into collectively is unplugging from what you believe is true, or giving your power away to these public figures who are supposed to do their jobs, and going within and saying, in this moment, what is true for me? So this moment in time is giving us an opportunity to find our own authentic truth that doesn't have to match the truth of people around us. It's giving us as a world an opportunity to spend more time developing relationships with our emotions, examining our thoughts, deepening our relationships with our friends and our families, and really getting out of the mindset that it's going to be the fulfillment of my desires that makes me happy, when really it's how connected to myself that truly defines how happy I am. So all these really timeless spiritual truths that we've all known on the spiritual path is now become what the world is being given the opportunity to realize. And the world is not being given much of a choice. It's kind of like, for so many years, you're invited on a spiritual path. And now the world is in a position where it's like, and now it's time to start that path, whether you're ready or not. And so this is really what we're seeing, in the pandemic, is really a manifestation that is bringing the world together in unity consciousness. We are all having the same experience in different ways, and we're being invited to discover a truth deeper within ourselves than the headlines on TV, and to discover a truth within ourselves that finds connection as the source of happiness, not the more I attract or the more I get rid of. And so it's a really great awakening out of materialism and even spiritual materialism, and into the essence of being a connected divine human being.
what is your advice for healing and staying calm in these times? Because a lot of people are not aware of that spiritual path that you're talking
That's
about.
right. Right. Again, a lot of, metaphorically, children becoming adults who aren't aware of the growing pains.
Mm.
Totally get it. In order to be calm, it has to be okay to be angry.
Mm.
And if someone allows themselves to be angry, it's going to come out in a conscious way. When someone says it's not okay to be angry, it always comes out hurtful towards another person. People think if they allow anger, they're going to feel angry more often. The truth is the opposite. If we resist or we deny anger, it's going to happen more often because it wants to be validated, it wants to be valued, and it wants to be heard. So if we say to ourselves, I allow myself to be angry, through the law of polarity, only calm will be. If we say, I allow myself to be sad, it's strange how slightly happy we can feel. Because if we allow ourselves to be the very things we're trying to hide from, that's where we find our wholeness, which, like a rainbow, every color must have permission to be for the beauty of the rainbow to be seen. So we're not trying to be one way all the time. We're allowing ourselves to be whichever way we are. And the more we allow it, the more it comes out as a conscious expression. And when it's conscious, anger doesn't have to be anger at someone. It can be just an expression of repressed passion. And so it's a really interesting shift. The more we allow, the less we deny. Consciously, which is saying to ourselves each day, I allow myself to feel whatever I'm going to feel, and I'm going to feel it. I don't have to blame anyone. And even if I blame someone on the inside, I'm just going to stop and breathe and love my own heart. You know, if we start our day with a beautiful intention of, it's okay to be exactly as I am. And then everything in life is just bringing up a different part of us so that we get a chance to go, I can love that part of me. It's okay. It's okay. And it really becomes a very beautiful journey. I can see the change in your eyes as I say this.
That's great. So, if you were to stand in front of like 50,000 Swedish followers today,
yeah, which I will.
Like for real, what would you say to them and hope that they will take it with them as a lesson for life?
That's a great question. I think that what I would say is that loving ourselves is not just how we soothe our innocence during uncertain times, but loving ourselves because we are interconnected to all beings. Loving ourselves is how we send healing energy from our heart to other people at all corners of the globe simultaneously. So we're not just loving ourselves because we're trying to escape fear or soothe our anxieties. All the things we feel, like fear, anxiety, and sadness, is not just ours. We have made it into ours, but it really is everyone's. So when we love what everyone is feeling, the everyone that is connected to us is healed as one. And so what I would say to 50,000 beings, which I will come to Sweden and that will happen, is that loving ourselves is how we're going to achieve world peace. And that it doesn't actually have to be something external, even though those external steps are necessary at a certain point, that we could literally all, if we have to be in our houses self-quarantining, if we just sit and love ourselves, every heart on the planet and every being at every dimensional level is healed as we love ourselves. And so that is a very powerful realization.
Have you practiced this during your self-quarantine?
I love myself, not as something I tell myself I should do, but I do it naturally. And I'm at a point where when something arises, it doesn't feel like mine. It feels like it's a part of the world's. So for example, I feel something as I'm in the self-quarantining. And for me, self-quarantining has been very easy because when I'm not traveling on the road, I tend to be kind of a home person. Because when I'm on the road, I'm in hotels a lot. So I want to just be home in my sweats, watching TV, because I don't get to do that very often, right? So being at home is lovely for me. But when I'm going through this, I've literally been sensing the panic of the world, or the anxiety of the world, or the increase in suicide rates. And so every time I sense this, I'm loving myself as a way of sending healing energy out into the world. I'm also working with archangels on certain things about healing the planet on a higher level. But every single day I'm loving myself, not because of what I'm feeling, what I'm going through. What I'm going through is just the universe telling me there's a certain population in the world that needs the healing energy, and we're asking you to send it out by loving yourself. So I'm just fulfilling my role as a healer to love myself as a way in which I transform the world.
That's a hard job.
You know what? Life can be very hard, but for me, I love hard work. I'm a very focused person. I have a really high work ethic, and I derive so much joy out of hard work. It's almost like for me, and this is a funny thing to say, like in order for me to sit down and watch TV, I have to have done something to have earned it in a way. You know what I mean? I can't just sit around and do nothing and watch TV all day. That's not who I am. No. I have to have I did all these things today, and I go, now I can relax. That's just kind of
structure.
That's my structure. Exactly. So, and for better or for worse, but that type of structure works for me because the hard work it takes to be a healer working on behalf of the world, sometimes it feels like nearly 24 hours a day, even though it's not, all day. That doesn't strike me as exhausting. It strikes me as exciting because of my work ethic. Just like when I'm in the kitchen, making a meal from scratch doesn't feel like it's a lot of effort. It's just a joy, so it's
kind of routine to keep yourself in line with the universe.
I think for me, when I feel like I'm depleted, if I feel depleted, I meditate. I spend time in silence. Sometimes, I love hanging out with my friends and going to dinner, but there are times where I'll spend the weekend just by myself, not talking to anyone, just being totally silent and kind of cultivating my energy and rebuilding it. But what's interesting is because I'm channeling energy as I'm talking, the energy that comes through me is always replenishing me as it's going out. So because I'm a channel, I'm always the one being healed as I'm healing others. If I'm in an event and hundreds of people are there at the end of the event, I do feel a little tired. So I'll go get some dinner. I'll go back to my hotel. I'll meditate. So I have a very simple structure. It's not very rigid. It's not the same time each day at all. It's just I know when it's time to rest. But usually the energy I'm channeling is replenishing me as it goes out. And I'm very grateful for that.
What is your motto in life?
Oh, always be polite. That's it. Honestly, always be polite. Because it doesn't matter what someone else does. That's their journey. All that matters is how I act. All that matters is that I was polite to them. Right? If someone, and no one, I don't get treated disrespectfully a lot. But if someone were to cut me off in traffic, in my mind, I would say thank you.
I've read that in your book.
Yeah.
I have a hard time, grasping this because sometimes on one side I can feel, well, that's an easy way out to not tell people off that maybe actually deserves to be told off. And well, maybe not in your
I don't believe here's the thing. When you get upset when someone cuts you off, is it that you're really upset, or is it because you're actually empathing their upset that cut you off? That's an interesting thing to explore, is that we think we're upset because of what they did to us. Which is always the tip off. That's always the curiosity of what they did to us. But when you really examine it, what you realize is, they were the one that's upset and they cut me off. And me being upset is trying to reflect back their energy. I'm empathing them, because in life, if we take out the personal charge, and again, it takes time for that to happen. Life is simply a series of following instructions. If I'm walking down the street and someone says, get out of my way, all I have to do is follow instructions and get out of their way. How they talk to me is them telling me how uncomfortable and difficult their path is. I don't have to make that about their seeing me as less than, they're repressing me, they're judging me. And even if someone were to judge me to my face and tell me what they think of my teachings, or they don't believe in God, or whatever the argument's going to be, they're just sharing with me what they're passionate about. And it's gotten to a point with me where other people's passion, even if their passion is about condemning me, isn't actually about me. It's about their passion. And because I'm always interested in people, and I love people inherently, no matter how out of alignment they act, that's their journey, that's their growth. And so for me, it's just a very simple reality. If someone cut me off, how do I know they're not rushing to the hospital because their wife's about to have a child? How do I know they're not upset because they just lost their mother 10 seconds ago? We don't know what people have just been through. So with the heart of compassion, we allow ourselves to flow in harmony with life without needing to, be the asserter of global justice, right? It's a very peaceful, silent path.
And what you're talking about now is actually we say it's på näthinnan. It's, it's very close in my consciousness right now.
Yeah.
And has been for a long time. And like you say, it's a long journey. It's a lifetime of studies, but it's very difficult to get to that point. I can feel it. It's there, but it's difficult to treat yourself and the surroundings in that polite way, I think.
I think that's difficult. Yeah, well, and I don't think we make it about always, because then there's a part of you, your ego's watching to make sure you're always doing it always. And that's another trap. I think what it is that we have to realize that it feels difficult when there's still a fight in us. And I think it's a very mature thing to be able to say is like, you know what, I'm becoming a more loving person, but if I'm really honest, there's still some fight left in me. And there are people that can bring that fight out of me really easily. And if I'm really honest with myself, there's a part of me that I don't even want to admit kind of likes the fight. I'm someone whose fight is done. I've been surrendered. I have fought tooth and nail with my mother. Debates, arguments when I was a 12-year-old child, rather, not 6-year-old, 12-year-old child, for hours. Just, I have had wars, not physical wars. Some people have physical wars. Mine were energetic and mental wars. And I've been through a war for 30 some odd years. I don't have a fight left in me. All that's left is an infinite wellspring of love for every human being, because I'm aware of the war that I've been in. And if I've been in a war, then everyone else might still be in that war. So everyone who acts out of accordance with their highest light is in a war. But I don't fight back, because it's my way of saying, you're on a battlefield. I'm not. My war's done. So I will not join you in your war, but we become conscious of it. There's a part of us that likes the battle, that likes the friction, that likes the opposition, that likes the debate. Like in a movie where two people are arguing and they stop and then they start kissing. Yeah. There's a part of us that likes it. And if you really can be honest about it, you can actually get underneath it. But we first have to face it. And I had to face that part of me at a very young age that liked conflict. Kind of like when you're in school and it starts raining and you can't go outside and you have to eat your lunch inside. Ooh, shaking things up, and all of a sudden crazy things are happening in the world. And as a kid, you get excited. You're like, oh my God, this is so exciting. And or if you're a kid and God forbid someone passes away, but as a kid you just start laughing because you're just in the flow of life. If we can face the battle within ourselves And if we can face the part of ourselves that likes the battle, that secretly likes when people disagree with us, because then we get to fire back and give them a piece of our mind. If we can be really honest with that, we can really start to end the war without having to exhaust ourselves or put ourselves into a healing crisis in order for that surrender to occur.
Mm. Inner fight. Well, I think, I think that we had a lovely talk.
I think so too.
Is there anything you want to add?
I would just say that, you know, we take this path at the speed of authenticity. We don't try to speed through it. We take it one step at a time, and every moment of our spiritual path has to be meaningful, right? It's meaningful when we discover the fight in ourselves. It's meaningful when that fight gets retired. It's meaningful when we learn to love ourselves. And it's meaningful when all the love you give to yourself can actually be felt and believed. It's all very meaningful. And so we can't take it too quickly, because if we take it too quickly, we're trying to get to the end. If we're trying to get to the end, we're missing the entire point. You know, it's about the journey. And so we have to really find the authentic desire for the journey, for the growth, for the expansion, not just for the things waiting on the other side. So with the world still in this pandemic, in whatever way this is going to unfold, you know, this is an opportunity for us to enjoy the mystery of the unfolding. And of course, to love ourselves every step of the way. And the more we love ourselves, the more we feel the love we're giving to ourselves. And the more we feel it, the more that love is spreading around the world for all beings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, you are great in creating videos. So there are loads of videos on YouTube to hear your voice, listen to more wisdom. And so whenever you feel like listening to something instead of reading, perhaps this book or the other books from Matt, we know where to find you.
I'm on YouTube, or you can sign up for my newsletter at mattkahn.org. And when I am allowed to do public events again, I would love to come to your beautiful country and meet everyone.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Let's catch up for that one.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Have a great summer now, Matt.
Thank you. It's going to be wonderful. And you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
You too.
Thank you. Love you. That was so fun.
Yeah, it was. Wonderful.
That was a good one.
Yes, very nice.
Well, and great to see you again.
Thank you. The same.
Oh.
Bye.
Bye.